So we've gone live now. So Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to this week's debate. This week's debate will be about gang violence and how we can encourage our youth to take a different path. Unfortunately, this is a very relevant topic with so many of our youth going down this path. And inshallah, we can explore why this is and possibly share with you some of the preventatives that you can take or how you can support individuals that have decided to go down this route. We are gonna go straight into letting. I'm gonna go straight into letting the host, the panelists. Introduce themselves. So first we have Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Ahmed, do you want to tell us where you're calling in from and what you do?
Oh yeah, I'm from London, originally from North London, but currently living West. I'm a football coach plus a football scout within the community, and I work on and off with a lot of kids that are on the streets. Mostly, I work with what are called Rise projects based in North London, trying to get kids off the streets. And I also work with a club called Hilltop FC that's based in Northwest London, that I mostly run their age groups from 7 to 16. That's me.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Ahmed. Next we've got Hassan.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hassan. I live in West London. And I do youth work. I work with an organization called Spedel on and off, and I've done I've done one talk with Rise projects. So yeah, so that's me.
Thank you, Hassan. Next we've got Hassan.
Hassanan.
Hassanan. Sorry.
That's okay. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I live in a city about 10 miles from Minneapolis in Minnesota in US. And I've worked in human rights for over 10 years and worked in nonprofit, managed an employment and refugee program. What I do is I'm very accessible to the community right now. I have my own business, so I'm not employed by any organization. I deal with a lot of youth in regards to gang violence and drugs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next we have Ilyas.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ilyas Hussein. I live in Northwest London. I've worked with the youth in different settings. I worked in prisons. I worked in a da'wah setting. I worked with young people in schools. I worked with young people in the streets. Done quite a few activities with gangs and stuff, tried to mediate between gangs, and also some kind of da'wah work with some mosques to try to engage with the youth in the streets. Run some youth clubs in the past. I worked with various Muslims, Somali, Afghanistan, India, etc. So I've got some kind of experience around working with young people. At the moment, I work with homeless people with a big charity in London, try to help people off the streets and maintain their tenancies. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilyas. And next we have Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Yusuf Noor. I live in London. And prior to what I've been doing in the last 5 to 10 years, working in business leadership development, especially in terms of personal effectiveness and helping our youth and traveling to America, to Somalia, to understand more of what's going on there, and especially in UK, especially helping people to understand the importance of leadership and leading themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. So the first question that we have is, how do the youth end up involved with gang violence, and is there one main attribute that leads them down this path? Hassan?
Yeah. In terms of the question, for me, I could relate to it in some ways because I went to prison. I spent a long time in prison. I spent 14 years in prison. So when I speak to kids, I give them my experiences of what I've been through. So from what I can tell you, from what I know, and speaking to young kids, the main thing that I've realized is a lot of them, they don't have the father figure in their houses. So a lot of them, their families are dysfunctional. So when they go onto the streets, it's another family they're building. So a lot of them, they interact with other boys and they learn things from them. They feel like a family from them type of people. And basically, with a lot of the kids that I speak to, that's the main cause of it. It's a lot of the dysfunctionality in the household, that they're seeking a different like family, to be honest.
So you feel like the main attribute is them trying to look for some type of connection that they're missing in the household, basically.
That's one of the main reasons. Yeah.
And do you think this is also one of the reasons why they find it difficult leaving the streets, because they
Yeah.
feel some type of loyalty to people? Or
That's what happens. Yeah, you gain a loyalty to with people, because sometimes with a lot of these kids, remember, they start off very young, so you might be friends with someone for like 10 years, 5 years, and now you've built a bond with them. So it's like when you're trying to leave the streets, it's a situation where you feel like, if I leave them, I'm being disloyal to them, and I'm leaving them to like basically walk the earth by themselves, and then if they get into trouble or die or whatever happens to them, then it's on your head. You feel like a loyalty to them.
so when you're building this family, what are the things that you gain from it that you're missing? I understand it's you gain, close relation, but is it like, what other things is it that you gain from it other than that?
You gain what's, for instance, a lot of Somali households, a lot of the Somali households, we grew up with single mothers. So a lot of the single mothers, they can't afford to buy the kids whatever they need.
Yeah.
They go on the streets for these guys, their friends. They start buying them the latest trainers, PlayStation, stuff like that, and things that you can't, like, you'll be embarrassed to ask your mom for these type of things because you know the struggles that she's going through.
Yeah.
So sometimes materialistic stuff, sometimes it's emotional connection. It just depends on the individual.
Thank you, Hassan. I'm just gonna ask Ahmed, what do you think are one of the main attributes that lead people down this path? You just gotta get yourself. You're on mute, Ahmed.
Sorry, I didn't clock. And can you repeat the question again, please?
So it's still the same question. It's the first question. What do you think are the main attributes that lead people down this path, getting involved in gang violence?
Or to listen, and I have the same kind of question to Hassan. Listen, I was in prison for a bit. I was in prison for about 3 years. wasn't as long as Hassan, but it was about 3 years. And one of the things that I nigga leaded me, I'm talking about myself and in experience of what I went through when I was young. One of the things that made me get into the path was not having a father figure. My dad died at a very young age, and I had 5 sisters. I was the only boy in the family, so I didn't have a brother to look up to, and I didn't have a dad to look up to because my dad died at a very young age when I was very young. So what took me onto that path was I didn't have that male figure in the house, so I had to go out and look for friends, for male figures that can be my friends. So I think sometimes most of the kids, what brings them out is they want to look for friends. They want to look for someone that they can relate with, someone that they can do something with. And sometimes it heads on to going into the bad, but it heads on going into the wrong path of the end of the road, and they end up getting in trouble. They end up getting into like problems. But I think now is not the same as before. I think a lot of people a lot of kids get groomed into the lifestyle, and it's not the same way before. You're in school. It's like sometimes it's the friends that you have in school, the friends that you made in school, and it becomes. That's how I think that a lot of kids get involved in these kind of problems.
Thank you, Ahmed. Hassanin, what do you think? What do you think are one of the main attributes?
I mean, gangs are social, economical issues over here in the U.S. When you come in as an immigrant or refugee to this country, most of us did not come in with a lot of money, so we end up living in low-class neighborhoods where there were already other established gangs because of scarcity of opportunities. I can talk about in the US how we met gangs, and it came out in waves. In the early 90s, our gangs were based on our identity, you know. We're pretty much a gang because we're Somalis and we came together and we had a couple of names on it. Uh, and we didn't care about tribes or anything, and everybody was part of us, you know. Um, and the main cause of that was because of the name calling by other um, uh, individuals, like other races or other population that were there before us, you know, either be Hispanics or blacks or whites or whatever. And you know, we pretty much took the blunt of the society because we were new. You know, we were not as dressed fresh like the other folks. They called us names like booty scratchers and all that stuff, you know. So we formed our own identity, and then eventually other sects of gangs accepted us. So now we identified with the major ones, you know, like Bloods, Crips, uh, you know, GDs or Stone or anything that is out there based on
But
that identity.
so I understand why people created in the beginning, but why do you think individuals now, and boys or whoever join gangs that are coming from family households, what do you think are the main attributes leading them to joining it?
Yeah, it's pretty much for us. I think it was survival at the beginning. Now and it metamorphoses itself through time. Before it used to be identity, and then survival, and then now it's fitting in and what's cool. And we have the social media aspect of it that shows that it's cool. So you have kids who are from a good family, well off now. We're here 30 years, you know, and people are doing well off, and still we have kids joining gangs, you know. And it's pretty much about fitting in with this young group, making them, you know, feel like they look cooler, better than the other kids who are lame or fobs, you know, which is like fresh out of boat, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what is the main thing right now. Another thing that has come up recently is you know, a lot of people don't understand this, but Somalis, we do not have a hierarchy like other gangs. You cannot reach out like to a leader, let's say, and say, hey, calm down the violence over here. Everybody works independently, you know. And that has been like the struggle with the police as well, in trying to quill down the gang violence. But in terms of the attributes, I would say everybody has a self-interest. Some people have survival, some people have fitting in, some people have are dealing in drugs, and they feel like this is the population that would probably be extending their business and feeling like they have power based on who they belong to. So they will drop names like, hey, I belong to this, so that you know that um, if you mess around with this person, try to swindle them of their, you know, drugs, they can come after you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. Are there particular signs parents can keep a lookout for in order to identify if the kids are involved in gang violence? Hassan?
I think it's Ahmed Jama first.
Yes, sorry, Ahmed. Thank you.
Now that's. Can you repeat the question again?
Are there particular signs, patterns, parents can keep a lookout for in order to identify if their kids are involved in gang violence? So is there anything that you, as a parent, you can kind of spot, oh, you know, this might be a sign that they're going down this path?
I just first of all, I just want to make something clear in it. Like, you know, when people say gangs and they say these kind of things, for me, when I was young, it wasn't really a gang. It was like a family. We were like brothers. A lot of people, they say, and gangs this, gangs that. But we'll come back to that question. I just wanted to just bring that out there. The main signs of
why don't explain that? Because I think maybe from the outside it looks like a gang, but maybe to you guys it's more of a brotherhood, a friendship.
Yeah, for me, from when I was young, like I told you from the beginning, I never had that father figure. I never had that older brother to look up to. So I had 5 sisters. I had to go in school. I had my friends, and then we became a family. We got into a little trouble there and there, but we were not gangs. We were not people. People think we're gangs.
But
Like
you don't identify as
yeah,
gangs.
Hassan will tell you the same thing. Is when people say we're gangs, but they don't see like that we could. People never used to think that I could change. People never used to think that I could be the guy that I am today. People used to think negative about me. People used to say, "Oh, Ahmed's never gonna change. Oh, Ahmed's never gonna be perfect." But now when people look at me and they see what I do and what I achieved through the years, they look at me different, and I tell them, "Listen, that same kid that's on the road now, he deserves that same opportunity that I got. He deserves that same chance that I had when I was at that age." So for me, it's not other people that I don't know, maybe never been through this life. They will say it's a gang, but to me, it's not. It's just a family, and it's just some brothers that can come out of it, but they just need that guidance, like I had that guidance. Someone guided me through that path. Alhamdulillah, I'm in the right place. Same with Hassan, he's in the right place, mashallah. So we listen. It's just about guiding us. It's just about guiding these next generation, guiding these kids, and giving them the right support and the right thing that we could help them with, like either football, getting them into clubs, and getting them into bringing them into activities, taking them to boxing. It's like making them busy and giving them something else that they can keep off the streets. But going back to your question, I think the main everything starts from school. The whole everything starts from school. But a lot of Somali parents, what they don't clock and what a lot of Somali parents hide is if their kid comes home with a fresh trainers, they don't ask no questions. And that's one thing that we need to do is ask questions. If your son left with a different pair of trainers and he comes home with fresh trainers, the parents don't ask him, where did you get this from? You understand? So it's like these are the kind of signs is he's coming in, he's got a different attitude to when he left home. This kid was a perfect boy. You tell him, "Oh, yeah, Anna Eton." He's going to the shop. Now you tell him, "Oh, yeah, Anna Eton." He's telling you, "No, I don't care." So attitude, body language, and what he's wearing. So there's a lot of different things that you can clock off how his behavior has changed. But I don't at the beginning, I don't think it's something. I think what I call a gang is them people that are organized, them people that are the mobs, them Latinos, them people are called gangs. But I don't call this. It's just a little brothers that are just in one place trying to keep themselves busy, but they're getting into the wrong environment. And the only way that the parents can clock that at the beginning is by supporting the kids. I think a lot of Somali people, we don't give our kids the most. Like we don't give them the different people what and middle and Ajanabi people what they do. We don't do that. We don't take them to activities. Like me myself, I'm a football coach. I don't see a lot of Somali kids. 90% of the kids I got is Adan and middle. There's like 10% are Somali. It's hard to bring out the Somali kids. They only come out when they're 18 and 19. By the time they control themselves, they're driving, they're doing whatever they want to do. So when they're young, we need to start bringing out the Somali kids. We need to bring them into football. We need to bring them into these things. And we need to watch out for these signs like, is his behavior changed? How is he at school? He was good at school. He's not good at school no more. How is his behavior? These are the kind of things that we need to watch. And these are the kind of things that I think that we need to look at. Especially if your kid is wearing a 500, if his your kid's wearing £100 shoes and you didn't buy it for him, where did you get it from? Ask him the questions. Somali parents, we hide from that. The other thing that we do is we hide what our son is doing. If he's being bad, we told the community he's a good boy. He goes to see. No, he doesn't. So we need to start telling the truth, and we need to come out and just tell the facts, and then that's how we're gonna go forward.
Thank you, Ahmed. Ilyas, if we could, if you can also just add your opinion to this question, I'll read it again. Are there particular signs parents can keep a lookout for in order to identify if their kids are involved in gang violence or going down that path?
Yeah, I think what Ahmed said, mashallah, summarizes everything. He's speaking from personal experience as well, which is very helpful. For my, I think, point of view is education is very important. I think a lot of parents, because they don't understand the English language, they're not attached to the schools. so they don't go to meetings, even if they got parents, even you may, you know, the mom may not understand the language. I think it's important to make sure that you look at if your son or child is not doing really well in school, that you give them the support they need, whether it's extra tuition or be involved in education. And I think another thing is behavior changes. Like Ahmed said, if the child starts behaving differently, because we all know our children very well, we brought them up, we know how they behave usually. If they start changing differently, so there's something wrong. And it's important to communicate with them. If you don't talk to them, if you don't sit them down and say, look, what's going on? What happened? Why did you change? I've seen these changes in you recently. What is going on? Because what people do is they avoid talking. They don't want to talk about these conversations, which you might call hard conversations, but sometimes it's very, very important to talk to your child about their behavior changes, about their education, about their friends, who their friends are. Who's James? Is James a good person? Who's Ibrahim? Is Ibrahim a person who inspires your friend, your child, who to do good deeds or do good things? Or are there friends who take them down the wrong path? Get to know their friends, get to know their friends' parents as well. Why not speak to their parents and say, look, my son, your son are friends. What can we do to support them, make sure that they don't go on the wrong path, especially from young age? I think these are the areas that you need to identify, I think, to support their children. If you don't, at the end of the day, if you don't talk to your children, they're going to talk to other people. And once other people talk to them, they're usually down the wrong path.
Thank you, Ilyas. Yusuf, just touching on what Ilyas and Ahmed said, specifically Ahmed said, he's a football coach and he often just sees non-Somalis, and when parents don't really take the Somali kids when they're really young to activities and stuff like that, and when they get to a certain age, they can do whatever they want. We all know that kids are very impressionable when they're young, and that's truly when you should put time and effort into them. You being a motivational coach, how important would you say it is to kind of like put that time and effort into your kids when they're really young?
It's really important, you touched up very good points. If you think about in terms of real role models, we always talk about role models, but we really need real models, and the real models are the ones that are at home with you, that are modeling these real behaviors. Role model is always playing a role. It's very difficult for a young kid to be in an environment where even the mum and the dad, obviously, like Ahmed said, and yes, they lacking in terms of development themselves. So it's very difficult to get the best out of them when the mum and the dad need those extra skills. So we have to ask ourselves the question, who's raising them? Who's raising these kids? Are they skilled? Do they need support? Because we have to understand from the root cause. If you always done what you always did, you're always going to get what you always got. So nothing is going to change. We're always going to go on those cycle. But sometimes we have to really think about, okay, I want to bring these kids out. I want to show them, yes, there's extra curriculum activities they can go and develop. But the problem is, when the kid gets to an age of 17, 18, he doesn't look at his father and his mum or his brothers as role models. He looks at the street, like Ahmed was saying, he sees people as groups and friends. So we need to really think about how we can educate the parents to be better parents, and also get them going out and getting extracurricular activities and learning ways to be better parents. And even if English is not their first language, we need to start from home. Because
do you think it comes down to parents actually still raising kids the way they used to raise them back home, and not realizing we're in a different environment, and they need to do different things here, and also not truly understanding the importance of keeping your kids busy and really knowing where they are at all times?
And that's 100%. And also, that's correct. And then also we have to look at, because whenever I see the issues, I always think about the root cause. Every single year, if you look at Somali families are sending back $3.2 billion back home. If you look at the way in which we work as families, economic and financial literacies, where we stand is different from any other communities. 50% of people back home in Somalia live on remittance money. So it's an economic issue, and single parent home families. So we really need to go back to the house, and we really need to educate the mothers. Even if we can start with the young families that are now, the millennials that were born after 1984, and start educating them and helping them to be better parents. Whether the mosques need to get involved and start doing courses and sessions, how to be a better parent, how to engage your kids better, how to speak to them. Ahmed talked about body language. You know, when the kid comes home with a different attitude, we might not notice things like that. So things to pick up on and help, and people to ask for help. Like Hassan, you said, we don't have leadership. We don't have leadership. So
no, I think it's very true. Like Ilyas said it as well. It comes down to education, and you know, like if our community could come together and educate the parents on things to look out for, because even though body language might be obvious to us, some of the elders in our community, it might not be so obvious to them. We're going to move on to the third question. What preventative measures can parents take who are concerned for their youth? Ilyas?
Yes, I mean, thank you so much for that. I looked at this quite well, and I think it's not just parents that need to take, I think, more measures. I think this is a job for the wider community, and it's not just the parents. Politically, I think through the system, invest more to accommodate needs of the youth through local authorities, councils, social media platforms, and through youth initiatives. Economically, being able to support individuals, things like person-centered support, jobs support, etc., or in other cases, being able to prevent unnecessary expenditure and learning to save for the future. Socially, changing the environment, friends, circle, peer pressure comes from this, home interactions, at work, education, schools and colleges, local provisions, etc. I think one of the things that parents can do is look at where you live. Even if you live in an area which is really bad, then relocate. Or sometimes, you know, councils can support with house exchange. If the school the child goes to is bad for them due to being bullied or getting into fights or trouble, then look at moving them from that school, ensuring that the young person understands why they are moving and what they have to do to make changes so that behavior does not repeat itself. See what clubs or courses are available to sign up to. Example, sports, football, netball, basketball, computer coding courses at college. If the youth doesn't like doing learning, then encourage them to apply to apprenticeships. I know, you know, a lot of smaller kids do struggle with learning. I think, you know, apprenticeship is a good way where you can earn while you learn as well. So you're making money instead of selling drugs or doing other things. You can earn money while you're learning. Encourage your child to take anger management courses and conflict courses. Sometimes local authorities provide these courses to help the youth deal with trauma and dealing with conflict without violence. Parents to get training on understanding the effects of childhood trauma. This in turn can help identify early behavior concerns, as we spoke about earlier. The youth to be taught or given courses on the implications of any crime they do, example, criminal records and the lengthy jail sentences, how this will affect future employment. Knife awareness programs are another good one to take young people to, which teaches them the harms of carrying a knife.
But these, just a quick question, Elias. You know, these courses and programs you're talking about, who tends to run them? Are they run by the community in your borough?
So it could be it could be the yacht service, the youth offending services. It could be your local communities. It could be the local councils. It's about just searching online and reaching out to people that do provide these courses. And I think these courses will be helpful. And I know in prison, a lot of young people do have access to these courses. But it's young people on the streets that we need to make sure that they have access to these courses. And I know when I was,
And you know, these courses, they're great, but sometimes the problem we deal with when it comes to us, our Somali parents is, how do I put it? You know, if they go to a course and it's a Adam person delivering it, or Echnebi or someone else, they'll often say, oh, that doesn't apply to us. Do you not feel like it'd be better received if, for instance, someone like you or just a Somali individual that understands this actually delivered the program to our Somali parents? So when they do, you know, object or say, oh, that doesn't happen in our community, or that's kind of what has Mr. Mayan, you can kind of like, you know, explain what actually that does happen within our community.
I agree with what you said.
Guys, and sorry, wallah, emergency come up, some very important thing.
No worries, Ahmed.
And I got to leave you, wallah, very, very important thing. I just got a call, so it's very important.
No worries, Ahmed, we understand. Thank you for coming.
I apologize, truly, wallah, I truly apologize. It's just something very important. I didn't know it was going to happen, so I'll, inshallah, and see all of you lot soon. Well, I keep up all the good work that you lot are doing. And if you have any kids that are in Northwest that are willing to do football, anything, give me a call, inshallah.
Ahmed, just send me the link to your to the social media and the football thing as well, and we'll put it up, inshallah.
All right, no problem.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
All right, assalamu
Alaikum. Go on, Ilyas.
Yeah, I agree what you said, Amina. I think it's important that our communities do deal with these things, or even the mosque. But the issue is, are we educated enough to be able to deal with these courses ourselves? You know, are we, you know, we need to make sure that we go to certain courses to be able to get the qualification required to deal with these courses. And I think another thing is with Somali community, even if you're Somali delivering these courses, they look down on you because you're Somali, you're not Adan, you know, Ajnabi. This happens as well. You know, I've worked with a lot of young people before, and when I meet their parents, it's always like, oh, not just another Somali person. If it was Adan or it was another person, they kind of respect that person. So, you know, whoever that delivers the course, I think parents need to be open-minded. You know, especially parents growing up here, they need to understand, you know, they know this themselves and understand that we have to be open-minded. And I think parents from Somalia need to understand if somebody means good for our family or our children, then give them the opportunity to support our children. If they mean harmful for us, then we can take them, you know, push them to the side. But the reality is, whoever is delivering the course, we need to be open-minded and accept what they're giving us.
True. Thank you, Ilyas. Hassan, could you please just let us know what do you think would have, you know, helped you maybe choose a different path a few years back? If something, what would have been a good preventative measure for you, do you think, in your opinion?
In my opinion, at the time when I went to prison, I was 18. So, and I come out when I was 33. So for me, 18 years old, a lot of the youth clubs were starting to get shut, and they were a good source for us. Football teams would have been a better option, because a lot of football teams sometimes they charge you money and the parents can't afford that. So sports is a good way. Like when I'm giving the workshops and I speak to families and I give talks to mothers, and it's mainly mothers. When I do these talks, it's mainly mothers that turn up. The fathers never turn up. So it's mainly a lot of women, the ladies that turn up. And it's like, you're thinking, where are the parents? Like, where are the fathers? Like,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think the fathers are not turning up?
Because,
do you think it's because they don't realize the importance of them being there?
Yeah, they think, they probably grow out of this situation. But when you're in this country, it's a different ball game. It's not like Somalia or other countries that they've grown up in. When you're here, you're involved in that. It's not going to be easy to get out of that situation. There's only two ways it's going to end up. You're either going to die or you're going to go to prison. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of, when we do these talks, a lot of, when the mothers ask us, how can we prevent it and stuff like that, the one thing I always tell them is, get your kids into some type of after school activity. Because when you're in school, so you're focused in school. After school, you haven't got nothing to do. So for them, like a couple of hours before you sleep, some kids are out there. They just get bored. They get involved in small crimes, maybe shoplifting, stuff like that. Then it starts from there. Then it gets bigger and bigger. But the main thing,
I also think that parents don't realize that sports often also give you discipline.
Yeah, it gives you discipline. Like when I was younger, I always used to tell my mom to take me to like judo, karate, because I used to see a lot of the kids in my school, the Asian kids and the white kids, they were going judo and karate, but we couldn't afford it because it's like extra money coming out of the household. But those type of things keep them disciplined. So it's like on a Wednesday night, they're going to do judo, or on a Thursday night, they're going to do karate or this or that. And it's like, it keeps you structured, these type of situations.
I think it also comes down to Hassanan. I'm not sure if it was you that said it, but I think it was someone that said it about the economics in our family and how we spend our money. I understand, you know, I think when parents say they can't afford the sports, maybe it's because they don't see it as they don't understand the importance of it. Because when it comes to other things, you know, sending money back home or doing other things with the money can always be found. I think maybe if our parents in our community truly understood how valuable and how much it could actually impact our kids, they would be able to put the money up and be able to budget. There's also, you know, I'm sure Ilyas is aware, there is funding that you can apply for that can help you with paying for these things. Yeah, Ilyas, you put your hand up. You're on mute. You just
Yeah,
got
yeah,
on.
sorry. I mean, yeah, you're right. There is funding that you can apply to. Look at the local authority. Usually there's some kind of fund that they can support you. But I think looking at our communities, you know, in terms of funds, we have what you call Hagbed or Ayuto that people actually invest money in. And I know usually in our communities, our children are maybe wants to go to Somalia or Dubai or whatever it is. I think what's important is that that's called a holiday. Maybe you're seeing your family or you're doing some activities there. I think what's important is when you take your children out to another country, for example, you know, take them out to India, for example, and get them to do charity. It's not just about holiday and having fun and going on rides and stuff. It's about doing things to give back. And I think one of the things that I found people in this country, especially children, like is opportunities outside of London, opportunities outside of UK. Most of it is that, you know, the young people have never been outside of London except unless they went to country where they sell drugs or whatever it is. Not be stagnated in one area. It's about gaining those opportunities. Take them places that they've never been to. Let them help poor kids that don't have privileges that they have. And one of the things they will realize is that what they have back in England or what they have in the West countries is a privilege, and they'll appreciate it more. But if you keep them in the one same area, what's going to happen is that their mind is focused. Like, you know, Elia Ahmed said, a lot of the young people, they don't consider themselves as gangs, they consider themselves as family or friends, because they grew up together. But you need to take them out of that environment and show them that there's an opposite and a different thing, you know, and that's, I think, would be helpful is to get them out more. You know, whatever money that you need to save, the money that you buy on chicken chips or whatever it is, save the money, whatever you can afford to. Take them out on a holiday once a year, let them see different things. It doesn't have to be back, you know, in another country. Take them outside of London, for example. There's, you know, Civic Park, there's different holiday places you can take them to. Let them
That's
explore,
very
let them
true.
do
I think,
anything.
Elias, I think it's a lot of people, a lot of families don't realize they can take the kids to holiday within the UK, even Cornwall. Like, there's a lot of places you can go where kids, you know, just like get re-inspired, re-motivated. We're just gonna go to Hassan Neen, and then next Hassan. I'm so sorry if I'm getting it wrong. I'm not good at names. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Amina. Hey, I want to mention this, like in terms of preventative measures, there's nothing better than a parent who is proactive, like knows what's going on with their youth. Nothing better than that. I mean, it's a proven fact. This is studies have shown that if you get the youth occupied with activities, either being in sports or extracurriculum in terms of like flourishing their artistic values, so any kind of talent that they have, that they'll be able to stay away from other vices that are out there. That's a proven fact, no question about it. Studies have shown that. Studies have also shown that if you live in an area where they have like youth programs, youth centers where you take them, then the youth tend to be healthy, you know? And in most of the environments that, you know, when we came to this country, we lived in neighborhoods, like I say, broken down. We're looking, you know, we're put in areas where they didn't have this types of opportunities and stuff, you know. I would say this, the other thing is parents need to be aware. They need to be 360 degrees focused on their youth. I have a young man, you know, my son, he's 16 and a half. I want to know what exactly he does. I want to see his environment, his friend. I want to know everything about him, you know, especially now he's independent and he has a driver's license, you know. So I'd say the big deterrent in any youth is to be proactive, see what are the things that are popping up. I can tell you this from my experience. From most of the youth that I've talked to, I've literally talked to kids in my family and kids that their family have asked me to intervene, and I've literally told them, do not do this, you know, in terms of like, let's say shooting somebody, and next week I'm being called because they shot somebody, you know. So it is you know, a concern, because some of them have underlying, and then the person goes in front of the judge. They did an assessment, and the assessment find out that you cannot hold them responsible because they were mentally ill. So this person had mental illness at a young age, and the parents never thought of taking them to the hospital because, you know, it's a taboo in our culture to
It's
label
that
your
culture that plays into so many like different issues that we have in our Somali community. That people
absolutely. I mean,
support.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's only on the male. On the female side, you've seen recently when uh, multiple ladies came out about being sexual assaulted even from family members. I had a case where the daughter was sitting next to me doing an assessment for drug abuse because she's using drugs. And in front of her mom, she's 17, she tells the mom, yes, my uncle raped me. And the mom knew about this, but she never did anything. And she ended up being raped again by the neighbor's husband, you know? So at a young age, she was, 9 to 11 years when both incidents happened. And the mother, because the accused was her brother, she never even approached him or said anything, to him about it. So we have issues within our community. Sometimes the way we as men in my generation, when we were growing up back home, we were told, at keso, ninhog, skadig, reg skadig ha oinen, and in this society, it's different. You cannot just push every kind of emotional, every kind of sense of vulnerability of our youth, and tell them like Scott case, so you never know like how severe it is, or how deep it is. So those are the part of concerns I have. Is we as parents, we got to be on in front of the curve. We got to know what's going on, and we got to address issues that pop up, before it gets out.
Thank you. We're just going to go to Hassan before we move on to the next question. Hassan, you put your hand up?
Yeah, now basically what the brother Elias was saying, like about going on holiday and stuff like that. In terms of just before I went to prison, when I was like 15, I was playing for a football team, and they took like a group of us Somali kids, they took us to Devon, like what you were saying. And I've never seen sheep like that. I've never seen that. You've never seen the seaside like that for a long time. And it's like it was a different environment for us. And we were doing activities like surfing and stuff like that. And for a lot of us kids, we've never done them type of activities. So it was like something new for us. So these type of things that they need to be organized and stuff like that, like to help for kids in the future, inshallah.
Hassan, I'm not sure about the cost and all of this thing, but what I'm wondering is, it's unfortunate that our Somali individuals aren't as organized as other communities.
Yeah,
that we don't, in the boroughs that we live or the cities that we live, that we don't come together, create a small fund, because with numbers, you can find good deals and you can kind of just take your kids away, all of them as a group, and do activities. But inshallah, we'll come to that in the near future. We're just going to move on to the next question. Is the lack of confidence a reason why some youth are unable to say no to the street life?
I was waiting for you to pronounce my name again.
I knew it was your question, so I was like, let me not say it because I'll say it wrong.
I would have allowed you to say Hassan. My mom calls me Hassan, and she happens her name happens to be Amina too. So I was thinking you're gonna mess it up with the other Hassan over here.
I thought, let me just look at you, and maybe you'll know it's time to talk.
All right, sounds good. So lack of confidence as a reason for some youth unable to say no to street life. Like I said, there has been waves on how we join gangs in our community. First it was like we wanted to fit in. Ahmed said that before he left, like, hey, you never know you are in a gang. If you sit down with 5 individuals when we were young and you say, hey, where's your best, place to go? Everybody will mention 10 places to go. We didn't have one specific. Our goal was that we felt at home between together. How it progressed through the years, it changed. The dynamics changed. It was, fit in, protection, doing something together. And now it became about clout and money. Since we have I don't know if you noticed this, but we have a big influx of drugs, pills being used by the youth in United States. Just in Minnesota, which we have the largest population of Somalis, we have had a lot of young people dying last year, this year as well, from using pills, opioids, fentanyl and Percocets and all that stuff. So it's pretty much right now, it's not like confidence, but addiction is part of it. To being part of the street life. You have a good girl, normal girl who gets to stay in, but once they start using pills, and they're very addictive. When they If you sit down with one person and they tell you the story, it took them just one instance for them to be hooked. So you can imagine, like, at 1:30 a.m. in the morning, they're looking at their phone, and on their Snapchat there's a party going on just about 10 minutes drive from here. They will jump through the door, get on a car, go over there, get ahead, come back home, and you as a parent, you're thinking your kid is sleeping. So it's right now, it's all about necessity. It has nothing to do with any hierarchy whatsoever. We don't have uh, a need in our community per se in terms of belonging to a gang. Right now it's all self-interest. Yeah, that person belongs to a gang, it makes him cool, or that group is the one that sells that type of drugs in a certain area.
You don't think it has anything to do with like people's confidence, or
Not really. I can line up I can put a list of a whole group of individuals that identify them as a certain gang, like they belong to a certain group, and each one of them has his own intellectual talent. Like, I see them being very able bodies. But I can tell you this with a certainty: I've never met one shooter who was not high or drunk when they did it. I've never met one person who was violent to another person who wasn't impaired at that time. And it's pretty much crazy, like, reasons. Um, One time was somebody talking to my girl, and the girl says, I don't identify him as my boyfriend, you know, and I can talk to anybody. And so it's the reasons behind it. I've seen it uh, being pretty much a sense of belonging rather than just being a confidence. It's about clout, and making
so
money, pretty
let me
much.
ask you, when you say belonging, do you also think the reason people end up going into these groups that they identify more to belong, do you think it's because of perception and judgment from other groups that they maybe have tried to be a part of, where they feel like they're not as welcomed, and therefore they're kind of being more drawn to people that look like them and are going to be more welcoming?
Yeah. So there's instance where, okay, I'll give you like an example. So we have a certain sect or a gang that calls a certain name, right? And they belong to this certain geological building. It's in a certain place. People, kids who live there have no connection to this group, will claim, yeah, I'm from there, you know, just because of the clout, like the name it carries, the notoriety of it.
But then surely, if it's clout and it's the name that it carries, isn't that chasing a bit of confidence? No, wouldn't you
No,
say?
no, not at all. It's
Because
just
if
to
you're
fit.
chasing clout, is because you care about your image, and if you care about your image and you're saying something that's not true, it's because you're not confident in who you are. No.
Yeah, no. So I can tell you this, on if you, like I said, if you sit down with these individuals, even those who claim they live in this building but don't belong to this sect or anything, uh, they have a talent. They are confident. They live in a home. They are, smart as hell. Uh, they don't have any. I mean, I've had instances where people tell you, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, meaning that was the first day they rode with these people when they committed a crime and they were caught together.
Don't get me wrong. I've met several people. I've worked with people that have had substance misuse issues and stuff like that. And some of them are the most intelligent people I've ever met.
Yep.
But I also, in my personal opinion, I also think sometimes it does come down to confidence, being able to say no to something or yes to something. But
Yeah.
we're going to come back. Yusuf has just put his hand up, and then we'll go to Hassan that's put his hand up as well. Yusuf?
Yeah.
So I think Hassani, if I'm correct, if I can say it right. Um, Thank you for the gems. It's definitely, actually, I was in Minnesota last year, July, and I went to the Alliance with Samsam and Yusuf, who run the drugs rehabilitation group, and I've met I did. They've asked me to come down and meet over 25 Somalis that were suffering with addiction, and you know, I never expected to see anything like that. I think it was about 8, 9 in the morning, and I went. It was last year, July, I think 5th or the 4th, 2019, and I remember going into that room with 25 Somalis that were suffering with addiction with so many different drugs, and it's just out of the world. You know, they all of them had the potential to commit a crime, as Hassani said, he's never seen anyone. So that part of it we need to look at and obviously address. I think it hasn't come to Europe. I haven't seen it to that extent. It's an ad hoc, so lone wolf in Europe, but in America it's actually out there. And the second thing you said about confidence is correct. That, you know, you rarely see someone who lacks confidence in a gang, but I think it's fear of loss more to the confidence. So fear of loss of belonging. So if I'm not there, if I'm not part of it, it's more a fear of loss than lack of confidence. But then that fear of loss attaches to emotional intelligence. So they lack emotional intelligence, where that in a switch, that's why they say wrong place, wrong time. I would have made a different choice. And then if you trace that emotional intelligence and you look at the way we behave as a community, even in a parliamentary setting, we're throwing chairs at each other. So then you start to trace that emotional intelligence, something that goes back to the nomads and Badiou illa hatta. So yeah, that's where we lose. And you see, even I was watching this gang in Toronto, and there was a documentary done, and there were Somalis unfortunately losing their lives, and they were more wild than the normal gangs. They were actually more wilder. Our community are more wilder in gang than any other gang. And you ask yourself why. There's something about fear. Fear and lack of emotional intelligence. They do things that you would never imagine. Commit a crime, bang. You know, there was someone that was shot 2 people in front of a club. And he was Somalian, and he shot them there and then. So, and if you look back home and you see that as well. So I think it's something that's it's something we really need to address.
Thank you, Yusuf. We're going to go on to Hassan.
Yeah, in terms of the confidence situation, I think from what I've seen and some of the kids that I speak to, for some of them it is confidence. It is, because in every gang you're going to have the guys who are superior in the gangs, who are more the more confident ones. But then you're going to get some that are less confident, but they feel confident within the gang. So when they're in the gang, they feel more confident. So it's like, whether they're rapping or whether they're out on the roads doing whatever they're doing, they need the boss, or they need that type of person around them to feel more confident, to feel like they can do that or do this. Or do you get what I'm trying to say? In terms of, that's what I've seen from even sometimes when I talk to these kids, that some of them aren't as confident as you in a group. You might see some of them that are more confident than others.
I feel like what you're saying is they're very dependable on having someone around, in the sense of, and I feel like you see this in girls as well that might not be in gangs, but there's often people only feel more confident when they're in a certain group or a certain clique, and find it difficult walking a certain path just by themselves. That's
what I'm saying. They're more braver. They'll do other things when they're with them particular people. Like by themselves, they might be a maskeen. Like when they're with their family, the family might not know what they're about, because in the household, they might seem a particular way. But then when they're around their friends, they're more confident. The reality of them comes out, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. What can parents do? What can parents and our communities do to encourage and motivate our youth in order to steer them away from the gang violence and other related criminal activities? Yusuf?
It's a big role. It's a big job to really. I always say we have to start from the root cause, and the root cause, as Hassan was saying earlier, that parents is really important. That we need to educate the parents. The parents need to be aware. They need to have these tactical. They need to be aware. Like, let's say a parent that works, when they go to a job, they'll get trained, and there are certain things they need to do in order to understand how the job operates. We need to teach the parents certain skills that will allow them to understand, to understand where their kids are, and in terms of where the emotional intelligence and awareness lies. That's number one. And number two is to understand personal development. I believe when there's a poverty in a home, I mean, it's very rare that, and I think you mentioned that, I mean, earlier, that financial literacy and financial awareness within the community is also a big challenge, because when the son knows and the daughter knows the father can't do nothing for them, and the mother cannot offer anything for them, even to set them up in life. So when you get to the age of 18, 17, and you start to realize, and you look around you and you see your friends, like Ahmed was saying, was it Hassan who said, we couldn't afford to go to karate class. But once you start to get older and you start to see, you know, in Somali, they say, Nikalakta Badam Bawain. You're two brothers who are same age. The one who has more money is the older one. So if the community are, if the parents in the household are financially stable, which is very hard to get, obviously knowing the journey we came through. Or number two, if they're in a place where they understand the skills they require to monitor them and to challenge them. So when I came to UK when I was 8, 9 years old. The first day I started school, I was 11 years old. That's the first time I ever sat in a classroom, ever. I left Somalia when I was 5, and it took me 5 years just to get to UK. So the first time I ever sat in a classroom, I was 11 years old. First time I ever picked up a pen, I was 11 years old. My classmates were sitting there learning about Killing Mockingbird, Lady Macbeth, sitting there, writing essays. I'm on the other side of the class, learning how to trace 1, 2, 3 and ABC. Trust me, I'm telling you, I started to feel behind, but I knew that if I can identify with a certain group of people, I will be protected. And I relate with Hassan and Ahmed and Hassani, what they're saying, because that's how I grew up. By the time I was 16, I did not want to be in school. I wanted to be in a group of people, group of a gang that protected me, that hid my weakness away. So because I was lacking skills in school, and that's why you need one of the preventions of the parents when they see their kids lacking in school. Tokon batai, demean batai. That's what we do mainly. That's where it starts, because that's where I went into it.
Comparison kills. We compare too much with other kids and even our friends' kids and stuff. Good,
you're right. And remember, comparison destroys confidence. That's what it is. Comparison destroys confidence. So there's me, Mom, you know, I said I'm going to go to work. I'm not going to go to school because I felt I was paranoid to go to school. So I was aligning myself to the group of people who showed me, no, you can do this thing. But anyway, that's my personal experience. So the other part to it, what saved me personally, I went to look for a part-time job when I was 16 years old. And I started working since 16, and that helped me. So I think making sure that we've got the right courses, and Ilyas identified it earlier, having the right coding courses, making sure that we get kids into apprenticeships like me that did not feel that education wasn't for them. Parents, making sure that we monitor them. Parents need, so it's about 4 to 5 key things that we need to do. Number one, we need to educate the parents. Number two, we need to understand, because seek first to understand and then to be understood. So we need to understand what their needs are so we can meet their needs. And in order for us to do that, we need to be self-aware. The parents need to know there's 4 stages of learning. If you look at, there's 4 stages. There's incompetence, unconscious incompetence, the first stage. Then there's conscious incompetence. Then there's competence, conscious incompetent. And then there's conscious competence. And the last one is unconscious competence. There's 4 stages of learning. There's parents that lack skills that they don't know they lack. That's when you're unconscious incompetence. You're not even aware what you lack. You don't even aware the need. What are the needs that you need to support with your kids? The second one is conscious incompetence. You are aware you lack a skill, but you're not doing nothing about it. And then the third one is conscious competence. You are aware you have a skill, but you still need to rectify it and define it. And lastly is unconscious incompetence. So that's, you do habitually, you're very talented, you can do it naturally. So those are the 4 key stages that we need to learn from and say, okay, what do my kids lack? What do my community lack? And we need to really understand what are the needs. Even in relationship, even if you're in a relationship, you have to meet both of each other's needs in order to understand. And you both have to bring the best of each other in the middle. So that's what it is. We can't just point out, we need to understand the need before we provide. All these solutions would work unless we get the partners, the ones that are already involved, and we need to ask them the question, what do they need? Hassan answered it, Ahmed answered it, they had their experiences. Hassani sees it every day, Ilyas understands it. We need to provide these activities, extracurricular activities, educate the parents. So I didn't want to be too long on it, but that's my point of view analysis.
Let me ask you a question, Yusuf. You know, when it comes to, we all agree with like what the issue is and what preventative measures we can take. But I think one of the major barriers is getting the majority of Somali parents to kind of change the way of thinking. I feel like the way of thinking is very linear, which is as long as I provide clothes, food, and a roof for my kids, and I just tell them to study. This is very I'm stereotyping, but you know, I tell them to study science or whatever, and you know, force them into this biology or whatever, or this typical route that Somali parents want their kids to take, instead of nurturing whatever creative or whatever their kid is good at. How do we kind of shift them from that thinking to more of listen to your kid, explore different things? If your kid wants to do art, it's not a bad thing. They can still get a career from that. Like, how do we shift that mindset?
Good. Very good question. And I always say, until the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change, we will never change. It has to hurt enough. You see, change only comes until the pain of remaining the same is greater than us changing. It has to hurt so much that it's a must. There's no other option. You know, there's no other option. We have to all go out there. So to change their mindset, they need to see enough. They need to understand there's no other way until every single home has got this issue on their table that we
But Yusuf, I feel like so many of our Somali communities, like, I feel like if we go and speak to any Somali parent, they might not have a child that they in their household that's gone to jail, but I'm sure every single Somali parent in the West knows of a friend's child or someone that's gone to prison. Yet this is not enough to wake them up and change their mentality. And even when it happens to them, the thing that you hear from them is like, I never thought it'd happen to my kids. Or if it hasn't happened to their kids, that won't happen to my kids. It's this naivety of your kids are somehow different or they're somehow immune to this. Yeah. And when it does happen to their kids, it's like, not to say it's too late, because you can always change and you can always better yourself, but it's, how do we get them to understand when they're not listening and we're showing them everything and we're having these conversations with them?
Okay, very good. I'm going to let Hassani speak. I'm just going to, yeah, I'm going to add 1 minute and I'm going to give it to Hassani. I know I've got an expert on one. So one thing that's very important, we have to strengthen in families. Over 68% of Somali families are without a father. So that first of all, maybe do marriage classes. Maybe we need to do much more in terms of educating couples. That's number one, because other families, other communities stay longer together. And even I'm being very generous when I say 68% of Somalis were single parent homes. The second thing is that we have to understand, first thing is first, is that where we are, and as a community, we cannot all come together and deliver one big project across from all the way to America to UK. We have to find a localized programs that target the local needs. So I'll let Hassani carry on.
Thank you, Yusuf. What you're saying is quite important, and it hits the head of the nail. But on personal development, like you have said also, the template that we can use here in Minnesota in the US is different than what you will be using in UK and what you'll be using in Canada. In Canada, like you mentioned, there is some form of territorial integrity, because the gangs over there usually want to maintain like a section where they sell their drugs and they don't want anybody else to come in. It's pretty much, the shooting in Canada is pretty much like a wholesale takeover of corporations, where you buy 51% of the stocks and you own it, but in the streets, you have to shoot people on the corner to discourage them from selling at a certain spot. you know. So that's what's happening in Canada. That does not happen over here. Um, in terms of encouraging and motivating the youth, you know, when I was growing up, we had only rotary phones. I don't know if you guys used one before, but I did. And we, you know, our parents used to lock it, you know, and when you lock it, we used to tap to call other people, you know. And I don't know if you have older siblings, you can ask them about it, you know, how we used to steal tapping numbers by tapping it. TVs were only from, let's say, 4 p.m. until 10 p.m., one channel only. Things have changed significantly now. I mean, while you're staying, you have, you know, multiple mediums that your child can learn from, you know, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, name it, they have it. Um, the part about you steering them from gang violence is pretty much you have to entice them, and you have to give them the knowledge to say no, and give them the skills for 21 centuries. You don't want to give them your parents' kind of skills. The 19th century skills of where fear is greater than love does not work with the 21st century problems, you know. um, you don't have to do comparison, you know, with kids, like, you know, "Qof kana kafi'an," you know. um, you have to build them in the circle of young men that I have, my nephews, my son, you know, my nieces, everybody. I say, listen, I'm kicking in knowledge in you so that when I'm not around, you can make the right decision uh, according to the situation you're in. And the reason for that is you would not be there on a youth when they have to make instant decision. And there's so many youth that are out there that are faced to make instant decisions on so many issues. They go in a group in a mall and something happens because one of them acted a fool. They're going in a group to, you know, a festival, and one of them acts a fool. And suddenly it becomes like a gang identity, you know, where people say that certain gang, that group is a gang that does this. So we try to warn them and say, do not be around individuals that will put you in a trouble where you'll have to, you know, defend your integrity as a person, you know. But pretty much the other thing that is important is parents have, like I've said, and everybody agrees, is that parents have to be on top of their kids. I know a parent one time that said, come and help me, my son, they caught him with a gun, and they're against him. They have been, you know, following him. And we said, okay, we'll come to the courts with you. And we went to the courts. When we went to the courts, the defendant asked for bail so that they can go back to work and go to school. And the prosecutor said, no, you're not going to get the bail. And the judge said, why don't you want to give the bail? He said, because this person is a very violent person. He shot his friend on the foot, and we found his gun under the bed, and the bullets were all over. And they showed us the video on the court that the bullets were all over to where the salt shakers and the spices are in the kitchen. Now, you tell me, if you're a parent, how did somebody put bullets laying everywhere from the bedroom all the way to the kitchen without your knowledge? You know, so some of the parents themselves, you know, they're not like being truthful in how they keep tabs on their kids, and some of them know their kids are bad, you know, kids, and they don't look out for resources. They don't go out and say, hey, can you help my kid? The only time you will hear from them is pretty much saying, hey, I need fundraising because I need an attorney for my kid, and I need help in bailing them out from jail. My kid goes to school, you know, but they don't tell me, you know, they don't tell you the other stuff that, you know, has been followed up, you know, prior to them being arrested. So my thing is we have to educate the youth, have to mold them so that when you are not around them, they make the right decision. And that's where our community needs to come in. Like, parents need to come in, and they need to be talking to the language that the kids understand, the 21st, you know, century kind of language, not the language of the 19th century where you say, you know, You kick the kid out. How many kids do we pick out? You send the kids out. Guess what? The homie who doesn't have, you know, a parent at home that has alcohol and weed on top of the table and sells drugs is the one who's going to let him sleep on the couch. So he belongs to the gang after that. So those are the things that we need to work on as individuals personally, and as parents and as community members, try and see how we can discourage filling that gap of where individuals feel like they need to belong to a certain gang to be respected in the community.
Thank you. Yusuf's put his hand up.
Yeah. So thank you, Hassani. So in terms of the motivating part, so I was just thinking about it. We have a lot to motivate with our youth. First of all, if you look at Europe right now, the fastest growing business in Europe is owned by a Somali man called Ismail World Remit. We have great businesses that we can teach our youth. Look, let's be creative. Let's build. That, you know, you could have, you know, if you look at the biggest remittance companies across East Africa, is owned by Somalis. We're entrepreneurs. Everywhere you go, you see Somalis. Even in the middle of Somalia, somewhere, a mummy selling a tomato in the middle of the street. Where, you know, we're a community that are very advanced in technology. The same way Indians 30 years ago was sent by their government to go in IT, and that's why they run 9% of the world's IT, and the Google CEOs in India. So in the Somali community, we have a skill to be entrepreneurs. We have a skill to develop and build businesses. So we need to encourage that. And the second thing is what exercise does to your body is what reading does to your mind. So the same way that, you know, if you think about in our homes, the TV needs to be switched off, and we need to show our kids about books of personal effectiveness. You know, nafsul jihad shakhsi nimada, how you build taqwa, teaching that, you know, you work inside out. You don't need anyone else to interfere within your system, and developing them from the ground levels. And that's getting them to read and allowing them. So how to motivate them? My sons, I have 3 boys. Allah bless me with, mashallah. So those 3 boys, I tell them, listen, if you read this book, this is the reward you would get. So I actually give them an influence of reward. Does that make sense? So anything that they do that will benefit them mentally, so that I shape them in terms of what I want them to read. So personal effectiveness, books that will help them develop the seerah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The other thing that I found that, without even that being in place, when I speak to my family members, they will say to me, I wanted to go into an industry of network marketing and build a business in terms of distribution and this. They'll say, no. So we need to really encourage. I think if you speak to most gang members and the people that are in it for financially, and say to them, how are you doing financially? Yeah, I'm doing well. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? They don't know. Do you know how much money is circulated in terms of the trading industry of the world? They don't know. You know, if you start teaching them, yesterday I was in Halsden in church, where it's quite an environment where condensing Somali Maqayad. They saw me for a group of guys, they came, we school, and I was showing them about financial literacy, how to invest and make 7% of your return on your money. He's like, you make money? You make 20,000, you put it into a company, you get 2% return, you don't do nothing? I say, yes. Do you know about residual income? No, I don't know about residual income. Money, something you do once. And so once I started to talk to them, and they're like, what does the doctor make? How much is the salary of a doctor? It just almost felt the biggest guy on the street that says I have a lot of things I'm distributing. When you really sit him down and talk to him about the corporate world and how businesses generate money and how we send $3 billion back home every year, and he starts finding it fascinating. Can I really own a legit company? Is this possible? Is there a Somalian that's a millionaire? So I think what we got to do is, if you look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he married Khadija, he was working in business, he was trading, he was going to Syria, he was going to back, he was selling and buying. You know, as a community, especially a Muslim community, we need a financial umbrella in our communities. To pay sadaqah, you need money. To pay zakah, you need money. To go to Hajj, you need money. To get married, you need money. And I'm telling you, economic empowerment is one of the most important things that we can teach our community, so that they can look at a young man who said, oh, if you sell drugs, you make £200 a day. I can make £200 a day on Amazon. Does that make sense? That's what the answer should be. I can make £200 a day working as a doctor. I can make £200. So that's financial awareness. And I'm telling you, if you go to the young people on the street and you ask them what is going on in the world and government and how you make money and what type of salaries there are, they don't know. And once they are aware of that, and awareness is key. And that's how you motivate them, I think. You motivate them with money, and because that's where they are. That's why they're going, because they like money, they like security, they like the clout. You say you can own your own. If you want a Lamborghini, go work hard. You can own your own Lamborghini. If you want to become a big businessman, it's possible, because the fastest growing business in Europe is owned by a Somalian. You know, things like that. You can encourage them to do things like that. In Minnesota, one of the biggest restaurants is owned by Abdurrahman. Afro Deli has over 6-7 restaurants in Minnesota that does a quite a good business. So there's opportunity to increase that more.
MashaAllah, thank you, Yusuf. So just the last question to all of you, a common denominator that was coming up is, you know, the father figure in the household. How do we reach the fathers, or how do we kind of get them to start being more involved like the mothers? What do you think is the solution to that? As guys, you can speak on it.
I'll speak first. You know, I'm a father, and I'll say this: father figure in the house is not the ultimate, like the ultimate denominator of all the issues that I've seen. I've seen kids who have 2-parent household, and they still struggling, you know, with identity and opportunity and resources.
I'm not just saying a present father. I'm also saying an engaged father, an involved father that's, you know, just as you said, is aware of where their kid is at every hour, that's taking their kid to activities, that truly understand, you know, the signs that they should watch out for, body language, change of attitude. How do we wake up the parents to all of that?
So you know, it all falls down with priorities. As a parent, you have to prioritize your youth, the kids. Starting at a very young age, you got to listen to them. You got to have a pulse and find out what is ailing them. You know, like I give you an example of a young girl who's 17 and an addict doing an assessment to go to inpatient treatment, was telling the parent, like, you remember when I was 9 years old, I was raped and I told you about it and you told me to be quiet, you know? When I was 11, like, my neighbor raped me again and you didn't believe me, you know? And so as a parent, the biggest thing that I ever tell people, and in my group, my age group, you know, I'm not talking of those who came to this country. I came to this country when I was 18, you know, and I've been here, you know, more than 20 years now. And I tell people, like, the dynamics have changed, you know. We don't want to go back to the way we were raised and how we deal with issues, you know, ska amos at keso ha oinen, you know, qofna ho sheegin ceeb waaye, you know, those type of things. You know, it's different now. The ball game is different. We have to heal our kids. We have to listen to them.
The ball game is different 100%, but the problem is these things are so far embedded in our DNA that it's so difficult, because if we go and look at every issue that we have in our Somali community, whether it's substance misuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, anything, it often comes down to, you know, the ebb culture. Don't talk about it. Don't tell no one about our issues, or don't look for help because people are gonna, it's all about the image of the family over your actual mental health, physical health, and everything else.
Yeah, but you know what, the success rate that I have seen personally, that the best curve of the success rate is the parent who is engaged and doesn't deal with all this, you know, variables that were there before, and strictly, like, get concerned. Good example I can give you is this. A parent that found out the kids, you know, have before, when we had autism here, and I don't know if you guys know, we have a large percentage of our kids than ordinary Americans having autism in the Somali community. A lot of parents were, you know, they were hiding this kind of thing, you know. And now we got organized. We came out. We're getting resources. We're getting schools that are catering to this kind of, you know, kids, you know. The same thing is with parents from my age group that, you know, are really, they never cared about all this outside conversation on how they'll raise and break the barriers of saying, you know what, I'm going to find treatment for my kid. and I'm going to be out there talking about these issues. Those have the success curve is going, really well. The ones that are filtering are the ones that are hiding, only for us to
Basically,
find
it's
out.
coming down to what you said. Your priorities is where your priorities lie. Whether it's you care more about what other people think about you and what the rest of the
Absolutely.
Somali community think about you, or whether your child's well-being and it's the most important thing and what you need to
Yeah,
do.
if you put the well-being of your child, you shouldn't care about anything else. All the
Yeah.
other variables out there,
Yeah.
if you never thought about that and you put the treatment of your child or how your well-being of your child, either being,
I
good.
appreciate that, and it's very true. And I think I'd like to think that most parents do it, but I also think it's easier than said than done, just because
Absolutely.
certain
And
people have grown up in it depends on what kind of Somali family you grow up in, but
yes,
some have grown up in a very strong culture where it's like, our family name is everything. Like
yes, and that's
so
a
it's hard to unlearn something that's been embedded in you from a young age, and yeah. But
yeah.
let me get to the other ones as well, because we're going to be finishing up. Hassan, Ilyas, and Yusuf, what do you think we can do to engage fathers more?
I think, to be honest, if you look at our culture back at home, I think our fathers were not much involved in children's upbringing. It's always been a way where father works and the mom stays home and looks after the kids. We've come to a different culture now where the father has to work and the mother may work or may not work. I think it's all about looking back at what rights the children have. So Islamically, your children have haq over your rights of you. And one of the things that parents do in our community is that they deny this and they don't want to acknowledge. They always talk about their haq and their rights that children have. What the rights they have as parents. And I think it's important to also understand what rights children have. And what we like is role models in our communities. If the father's not there, of course, we said about the importance of the father being there and engaging the father in activities with the child is very important. If the father is not there, we need to look at within the family. So it could be uncles, it could be aunties, it could be cousins in the family that you can use as role models. If you can't find somebody in the family, it's important to look at distant family, or it could be the community you live in. If we can't find any role models in the community, then we need to look at other people. So the Indians, other people from different continents, you can see that very good role models for us. I think those are the areas that are really important. I think we need to become more modern. We can't be how we were in Somalia. We live in England. We need to become more, involved in our children, communication with our children, build a safe environment for them at home, and build that relationship with them, be role models for them, and be best friends with our kids. Whether you're mom or dad or cousin or friend, whatever it is, you need to be best friends with your children. It's important.
Ilyas, what specifically can we do to reach the fathers that are, I don't want to stereotype them, but the ones we're talking about are the ones that are either like sitting at Magahi for most of the hours, don't know what their kids are doing. How do we get them to kind of realize, the role that they need to play is such an important role in their kids' life?
I think it's important, those who engage in services, those who are community organizations or mosque, I think they need to go out there, call these parents. I remember a couple of years ago when I was living in South London, we used to organize activities, programs for parents to come and talk about issues with children and stuff. I think that's the kind of things you need to create a safe environment, safe venue for them to come and talk about issues of children and get them involved and what's the importance of getting involved. If parents are not coming to you, the fathers especially are not coming to you, you need to reach out to them. And I think that's important that those people who are community leaders need to go out there.
I think that's a key, just what you said. If the fathers are not coming to the events, like, Somali guys like yourself, it'd be really good if, I'm sure you're already doing it, but if you can go into, these magahis that are all for men, like going in and engaging them and kind of having that conversation with them and breaking down that barrier and that thought process and really making them realize, well, actually, because a lot of them will say, he's only 5 years old, he's only 8 years old, he won't remember it. No, he will remember those memories that you're creating right there and then. He will remember, and it will instill some, if the father says something to the 8-year-old at that time and it dedicate and they give their time to the child that time, they will remember it. It will build the foundation for them. But unfortunately, a lot of our Somali fathers are not understanding this. And yeah, we're just gonna move. Yusuf,
I would say on that point, I'll say this, like, we cannot fix a broken person, you know, especially when we have a broken person who is, you know, has kids, um, you know, and we say they've already used their time, you know, what I'd suggest is for any parent who has kids and they don't have a father participating in their kids, you don't have to wait for their fathers. You can find other mentors out there, you know. Any parent, you
100%
know,
it's not.
regardless. I have friends who are, go ahead, I didn't hear what you said.
No,
I
so
mean,
100, it doesn't necessarily have to be like the biological father, because you know there are some that rest in peace that have died. It can be the auntie, it can be the uncle, it can be the older brother.
absolutely,
It could be,
absolutely.
it could be
But
anyone, but it's all the male figures. Like they need to, like, you know, just like the mothers, they play really important roles, but there's certain things that can only be taught by the male figures in the family.
yeah, I mean that is the truth. I mean, nobody can ever fit your shoe as a father, and nobody can fit your shoe as a mother. But in society, we don't have 100% involving fathers or 100% involving mothers. I have friends who have custody of their kids 100% because the mothers of their kids are broken. They're dealing with issues in their life. You know, I'm not gonna say to them like, do not wait until that mother comes in. No, I'm going to tell them like, find a mother figure for, you know, for those kids. Find somebody who, especially, you know, if they're girls, we as men, we can do whatever we want, but I cannot relate to my daughter as much as I would love to, you know. And if the mother would not be there, I would have found, you know, in my sense, I would have found a mentor, somebody close, my sister or anybody who would, you know, help me raise that kid in a, you know, in a conducive environment or
Yeah.
in an advisory. But I don't think we can fix men sitting in coffee areas, and I've seen that conversation going on over and over again.
I wouldn't
You
say
know,
fix. That simplifies it, but I definitely think you can change, and I think it's worth not giving up on them, because even though they are the fathers now, they're going to be the elders of a generation in a few years' time. So it's still important to continue having that conversation, and maybe it will take 5 years before they kind of realize it, but it's continuously having that conversation.
I can tell you that that conversation is being had among us men
Yeah.
also, where we call them names, you know, for the kudirir or every other name outside. We're like, yo, you know, we don't want to sit in a loser spot talking about non-facting issues about politics and stuff. They know it, you know, but
Yeah.
you know, it's just like in every society, there are men who don't want to do anything, just like women who don't want to do anything.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
that's
not,
we're
you
gonna
know,
we're gonna have to move on. So just get Yusuf's answer and Hassan's, and then you guys are just gonna get to do your closing remarks, and then we're gonna finish up. Yusuf?
Well, thank you. I think everyone covered it, mainly how we engage fathers. But you have to look at the difference between a father and a dad. Um, the way they're in children's lives. I always say you can't be what you can't see. So it's important that there has to be a role model. And I say not even role because they're playing a role. There has to be a real model. So you can't see what you can't be what you can't see. So you need someone there you can look at and say, I want to be like that person one day. So it's important that. And the other thing Hassani also mentioned, how we engage the fathers and the dads, is we need to let them deal with their traumas, because they're carrying a trauma. They're carrying a baggage. You can't lead someone or support someone when you have yourself a lot of things, underlining issues you're dealing with. So that's one thing that we have, because you know, even if you go to a doctor, because sometimes we can't really rectify or find a solution for someone. They do say the more problems the more problems you fix, the more money you make in business. The more problems, the more ideas you come down and find solutions for it. Microsoft, Apple, and those big companies, they always find a solution, Uber. But when you look at a human being, they know what's good for them. A father and a mother know deep down what's good for them. If you go to a doctor, and when you go to sit with a doctor, what they ask you is, where is it hurting? okay? So that I can understand your pain, so I can subscribe something to you. We cannot subscribe something to fathers without understanding where their pain lies, where the traumas is. We cannot subscribe something to the parents without asking them the question, what sort of support you need. So almost we don't have to do the localized solutions, like Hassani said, that's probably a better idea, where we find out what is the questionnaire, what is the issue in our community locally in Edmonton, in Harrow, in South London, and what age groups are most vulnerable, and what can we do to support that. Then we look at the fathers and how many absent fathers do we have, and what can we do, how many single home parents, and then we look at those instead of giving them this, a solution that we pumped up.
Thank you, Yusuf. We've just gotten we've gotten a question, so I'm gonna ask you. I'm just gonna put the question out there, and whoever wants to answer it can answer it. So the question is from Idil Ismail. She says, "My son is 11, and I'm a single mum. I'm trying to motivate him to do sports such as basketball or boxing, football, but he's not interested. He just wants to play games. How do I motivate him if I've tried a lot?"
Okay. Again, sorry guys, because I'm really passionate about this. Sometimes it's not what you want the kid. You can't direct the kid to what you want them to be. You got to find something they really like. And if he likes computing, like my son is same, exactly the way Ilan described. My 10-year-old son, Zachary, is the same. Okay, I took him to kickboxing, I took him to boxing, I took him to football, and I'm a father that's there with him. He's not interested. Guess what I'm doing for what we're doing now? Went on Apple and we started doing a coding course. He's great. He's designing cartoons. So I said to him, what else would you like? The laptop I'm using right now as we speak, I'm borrowing it off him. It's his laptop. So he's telling me, give it back to me when you finish. So I finished designing the app. I'm learning how to code. So please, Idil, my sister, I know I understand. Sometimes when you look at them playing computer games, you might think, oh, it's not really good, or they're wasting their time, but find a way that we can benefit them by understanding how Microsoft was created, how IT, and giving them those small curriculum activities and getting them to learn to coding, and that's how the world is going anyway. Everything's going to be done online. You saw how that came through the COVID-19. Try and encourage him into what he likes and try and support him with that, but also give him the alternative. I'll get you that. I'll support you on that course. I found you this coding course, but let's go football this week, or let's go karate this week. So
I will second what Yusuf said. All kids are not the same. Even in our, I don't know if you know this, but in our education system in America, we use a term. We say, you can't judge a fish by the way it climbs a tree, So you gotta nurture those kids, man. What I'll say, Idil, is expose your kid. Find a mentor, a guy who will take them maybe to a basketball game, a football game, soccer game, whatever game that is out there. Expose them to different things, and then if you find them that they have an interest in something, then you nurture that. I have 3 of my kids are in sports, and 3 of them have different talents on things. One of them is, my daughter is very artistic. She draws on a tablet and stuff, cartoons and Japanese characters and stuff. My son is a basketballer. The other son is a soccer player. Everybody found a niche in something. All of them know how to swim. What I did is I exposed to them, and I know this is weird, but if you're friends on my Facebook, you would have seen I've been taking my kids shooting when they were 10 years old, so they know how to handle a gun. So that the reason for that, what I did was I exposed them to something that they wouldn't be excited. They sit among their friends and one of them shows them safe and just to be aware of their surrounding, And so for Idil, I know it's tough for a woman to ask a man to take their sons out, but I know a lot of good men out there who, when you call them up and say, hey, can you take my son out to a basketball game or or football game, or even the local masjid that has a lot of youth over there that they take them to group places like sports and stuff. You can add them. See, the biggest thing about parent is do not coop your kids in the homes. Expose them to the world. Like, let them find their niche so that you can know what they're good at, and all of them are not the same.
Thank you. Ilyas and Hassan, is there anything you want to add to Idil's question?
I think just to add, thank you, Hassanin and Yusuf. Your contribution is very helpful. I think one thing to add would be helpful, even if your son just sits there playing game, what might be worth is speaking to the son's friends. If you know the friends, the parents, they say, look, this is what we want to do. We want encourage the kids to go on outside, play some activities, do some football and stuff. I think what would be good is take them to the park, get them engaged together, build that relationship, and then say, look, guys, there's this sport going on. Why don't you guys go and play some football? Whatever it is, £10 a week or £10 a month, or whatever it will cost. I think it would be good to get their friends involved, because most of the time they're playing online means that they're playing with their friends. I think it's important that you can speak to the parents of the friends, get them involved, and say, look, guys, so Ahmed, again, he's going for football. Why didn't he come for football? And I think that will be a way to motivate them off the game, is getting their friends involved as well. Like I think Yusuf and Hassanin said, if they're interested in the games, you can support them become YouTubers in the future. They make a lot of money from there. You can support them to do coding and programming, etc. Like Yusuf said, talk to them about where the game come from, who built this game. Somebody somewhere is making money from it. What is it that you can do for your future to build that kind of skill so you can make money from it someday, and someone else can be playing your game, or YouTube video, whatever it is. Someone else can be watching you. I think just talk to them. That's the most important thing, and find out what they're interested in and not what you're interested in.
I think that's a key, that it's reoccurring. Find out what they are interested in, not what you're interested in, and support them with like how they can, educate them or, explore that interest. So we're going to come to the end now. We're just going to go in a circle. And if you guys just want to say your final remarks to our viewers, the parents and youth that are watching, we're going to start off with Hassanin. You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I was looking for the unmute button. Thank you, Amina. I should start botching your name first. In closing, I want to say thank you, everyone. I'm excited. And this has been a very good conversation from very brilliant individuals. I consider you all my brothers and my sisters. And our main goal, I hope that the community out there will find some benefits and find something valuable out of our conversation. The thing is youth problems and issues is a multifaceted issue, and it changes with time. So hopefully we'll be able to adapt with these changes and come up with new ideas and new ways of dealing with the issues that pop up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Hassan.
Yeah, as the brother said, Hassanin, I would just say that, if I got his name right, I'll just say that thank you to everyone who's come on the panel today. Even some of the things I learned myself, like some of the stuff the brother Yusuf was saying, some of the stuff he was saying was quite helpful. In terms of one thing I was thinking about when we were talking about the preventative bit, one of the main things is organizations like the one I'm working with is Bedel. We go around to different communities, not just in London. We've been in London, but we've also done a few like in Slough. But in terms of the preventative situation, people who have been in those type of situations are quite helpful. Like me and Ahmed, because we've been to prison, we show them that side of that prison that they wouldn't want to be in. Like a lot of the workshops that we do, a lot of the kids that I speak to, one of the first questions I ask them is, do you want to go to America or do you want to go to Australia? Because those type of places, when they say, yeah, I say, but if you get a criminal record, you can't go to these places. Just them type of small things, then they start to think about criminal records. They start to think about their future and how certain situations will have an impact on their lives in the future.
With just for the viewers that are watching, we're gonna share the social media for Isbidil. Does Isbidil also have a website?
I know it's got Instagram. It's got. I'm quite bad at these things. It's got Instagram. It's got a few things. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It's got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone, I'm not sure if they visit more outside communities, but we'll share the social media so you guys can message them on social media.
Yeah.
Ilyas?
Yes. Yes. Sorry. I think what's important is I advise parents, and it's nice to meet all the panelists here. Is engage with the kids' schools. You need to engage with kids' schools. Engage with the kids' teachers. Find out what is going on with your child. If your child's not behaving, if there's issues, don't blame the school. Make sure that you look at your child and see what's going on with your child. Do basic things with your children. Cook for with your kids once a week. Do some cake cooking or whatever it is, baking if you like to bake. Get them involved in cleaning the house. Take them out to restaurants, ice cream shops. Take them to parks. Fair, sleep in a hotel like we said earlier, going to trips outside the country, pray together, read together, watch family movies on YouTube together, etc. I think building that relationship with your child is the most important thing, especially from young age. As they get older, they know that you're the best friend that they had, and they won't find anyone out there that loves and cares for them more than their parents do.
Thank you, Ilyas. Last but not least, Yusuf.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate Amina, Hassan, Ilyas, and Hassani, and Ahmed who left. Really enjoyed the conversation. I think we've got some good nuggets from here. Overall, it's really important that we need to celebrate our youth because, in a way, they are ones that are doing really, really well. So we need to also celebrate the success, incredible achievements that have been achieved throughout the world. So we might, need to put that out there more. So they can see you can't be what you can't see. So at least they can see, and hopefully that is something we're all doing. And also, we need to understand that sometimes if you're in the picture, you can't see it. So we need to maybe take a different perspective. And once we do that, maybe we can find better answers. And also, if you think about Somali's average age is 16.7. So we're a really young community, and we have to think about the ones that are coming up, like our kids age 7, 6, 8, 9, 10, how do we deal with those? And what solutions do we have? And then the ones that are in the middle age, 25, 26, maybe have a criminal record, like Hassan said, what can we teach them to find a better way to be self-sufficient and find a way to help themselves and get married and find a way to provide for their families in the right way. So we've got a lot of answers from here today, but we need an implementation. There's 3 stages of learning. There's 3 stages of knowledge. You acquire knowledge, you organize knowledge, and you apply knowledge. So I think what we need to do now is organize what we have, and then we need to start applying. Now we understand the root cause, or we understand the problem. But I hope I'm really excited about the youth and the future of our community. We'll do great things, but we just need to work together. And thank you for every single one of you contributing.
Thank you, Yusuf, and thank you all for taking part and giving, almost 2 hours of your Saturday evening. Thank you so much. That's it for today, and hopefully we'll have you guys a part of other debates in the near future. Thanks again, and bye.